everyone. Thank you for attending the first of many webinars in 2024, jointly organized by the IU Global Gateway, ASEAN Global Gateway. And in this particular webinar, it is also jointly organized by the School of Education. My name is Farida Pawan. I'm a professor in the School of Education, as well as the academic director for the IU ASEAN Global Gateway. And today we are so honored to have joining us two scholars in adult education. Dr. Sulmonit Kerdnoonwong is assistant professor and chief of the Department of Adult Education and Lifelong Learning in Srinakharinwirot University in Bangkok, Thailand. Dr. Amy Pickard is an assistant professor in the Department of Adult Education at Indiana University, Bloomington in the United States. They will both delve deeply into the issues, the contemporary issues in adult education, which is the core of their research, teaching, and service. Allow me here to take a few minutes to remind you that the webinar will take the form of a 30-minute conversation between our two speakers, and we will then proceed to a 20-minute Q&A with our audience members. But in the meantime, while the conversation is taking place, audience members, please know that you can post your questions anytime in the Q&A box, and at 30 minutes, we'll draw them from the box and we'll, engage our speakers with the conversation in the questions you've asked. And so thus, Professors Kerdnoonwong and Pickard, I hope henceforth we can use your first names, Sulmonit and Amy. So welcome to both of you. Sulmonit and Amy, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Farida.
Thank you so much, Farida, as well. Yeah.
So, Sulmonit, if it's all right with you, I can start by asking you a few questions about the structure of adult education in Thailand, and then maybe we can compare a little bit between the United States and Thailand. I know that, for example, non-formal education may mean something different here than it means in Thailand. Can you explain what non-formal adult education is in Thailand?
Yes. Actually, yeah, it's quite different. Yeah, actually, in Thailand context, yes, the adult education is a kind of the learning activity, or a kind of the learning program, or the project developing a person in a working age, or the older adults. In case of the working age, maybe something like that, they have to professional development by the training and development program provided by the workplace, as well as some kind of the informal learning activity of the working adult. And in case of the older adults, such as the program, maybe the community or something like a unit that propose the program, maybe they are going to supplement them by doing some like a daily life program, like a cooking class or painting, handicraft. Yes, we also hold adult education. But in case, a little bit, yes, adult education, we used to call maybe 20 years ago or something like that. But we changed to be, as you mentioned, that called lifelong education, because like Thai society, we learn from the mainstream organization like UNESCO. Yes, they propose about the work of the lifelong learning. So now most of Thai educators usually use lifelong learning instead of adult education, but we understand together that this is the same concept or something like that. But actually lifelong education is like a broader target learner, like education for people of all ages, something like that in our context. Yes, Amy. And how about in the US context? Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah. Sure. Yes, so I would say here we distinguish three types of adult education: formal adult education, non-formal adult education, and informal adult education. And we typically don't use the terminology lifelong learning. I think that that's maybe a shortcoming sometimes of how easy or difficult it is to communicate about the field across settings. But so formal adult education we think of as affiliated with institutions. So adults who are in higher education, adults who are in any kind of program that's affiliated with a government accredited school. Non-formal education is still organized adult education. There's still a facilitator, there's still a program, but it can be in a community setting, in a church. It's not necessarily affiliated with a government regulated process. And then informal education, adult education, we think of as adults learning on their own or learning incidentally, looking at the internet, looking at videos, how to do something, asking a friend how to do something. So not organized in the same kind of structured way.
Yeah. So I can see that maybe your concept of the adult education is a lack of informal learning for the group of adults. But actually, in for Thai context, yes, adult education may be the program set by some unit that responsible to, yes.
Right. I thought that was interesting. So there's organized non-formal education in Thailand. Yeah. I wanted to ask you if we could talk a little bit about, or you could talk a little bit about the Learning Encouragement Act and the sort of policy that structures adult education in Thailand.
Yes. I used to talk with you about, yes, we just announced, release about our new Education Act. Yes, it's called the Learning Encouragement Act, released in 2000, last year, 2023. Yes. Actually, this act already be developed from the Non-Formal Education Act that may be used for maybe more than decades or something like that. Yes, as I already mentioned, that it's because of the trends of lifelong education or trends of lifelong learning. Yes, they are going to change the unit or the Office of Non-Formal Education to do something more, like doing some elevated the job of them or something like that. And then this kind of the act is under the operation of the Ministry of Education. But actually, in my opinion, I think is now is quite like a very shining in Thailand now, very focusing, yes, in Thailand, because we can see so many concepts or guideline proposed in Thailand from not only from Ministry of Education, maybe from maybe Ministry of Labor, because they talk about the workplace or something a labor would like to doing some kind of human development or something like that. That's quite related about lifelong learning as well. Yes, but actually the Learning Encouragement Act, yes, will be affect all kind of like learning activity for all age of Thai people. Yes.
Oh, so it's a broad, it's truly lifelong, as you were saying before. So not just adults continuing education past school, but it affects learning for at any age.
Oh, yeah, for all Thai people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I think even
have you any idea to share?
Oh, sorry, there was a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
because
interesting.
of maybe my connection. Yes, I think unstable.
Yeah. I think in the United States, we typically have a separation of adult education from younger people's education. And I think that's in some ways to the detriment of adult learners if they're always separated out in this context, which is one of the benefits of thinking of lifelong learning as a sort of continuous process. But we do have legislation that is specific to adult education, and it's called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And it represents a shift, I would say in the 90s, in the early 90s and the 80s and 90s, there was a much greater focus on literacy development. And now the focus is much more on workforce participation. And literacy development is included in that. There is attention to the idea that development of skills for adults that don't have them are important as a part of workforce development. But just as I was looking back at the fifth global report on adult learning from UNESCO, and they lead off with the idea that reaching adults who need it most is one of the biggest challenges of adult education across the world. How do you get that to the people who really need it? And so the legislation, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, has brought with it a lot of what we call accountability, right? The legislators and taxpayers want to know really what their money is going for. But what happens then is programs sort of shift to serving adults who are already almost ready to go into the workforce, which I'm not knocking. I think that's very important, and those folks are just as important as other adult learners, but it does represent a shift in who is getting served by the adult education system in the United States.
Yeah.
Is there in Thailand? Oh, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Yeah. So you already talk with maybe you mentioned on adult as maybe in the workforce area, is that right? So what do you think about maybe the elderly, I mean the older adults in the context of in the US? Yes, because actually now, yes, you know that in an Asian country like my country, I mean in Thailand, yes, we are becoming in the aging society, and we have to confront with many maybe trouble or a little bit problem from how to treat the older adult to be well-being or something like that. Yeah, so this one is a kind of our policy as well to establish Department of Elderly. Yes, we have Department of Elderly to treat the group of the older adults. And we also propose the program and propose the training program for a person who are going to taking care of or to be the instructor or the educator for adult as well, in the form of the aging people school or something like that, because of one of my colleagues, yes, responsible to do the project like this. Yes.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you about. I know that some of your research is about competencies for adult educators or for educators in the non-formal system. Can you talk a little bit about what you think those competencies are? What is it important for adult educators to be able to do to best serve the learners in Thailand?
Okay, but actually that research that is we talk about the adult learner in university as a part-time student. There were bachelor level students who studied in the program during the evening program. Yes, because actually their characteristic is as a major or adult. So the competency of them maybe because of this one maybe last 10 years ago for my research, but actually the characteristic of the adult learner is quite the same as the concept that we already know, like psychology needs or their learning needs or something like that. And you talk about the competency of the teacher, is that right? Okay. In the side of the competency of the non-formal education teacher, maybe I have to talk separately because actually in my research we talk in the formal education because they are in the bachelor of in the bachelor level in university. It's okay for you? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I understand.
So the competency. So the competency of like a university teacher like me at that time, yes. Mostly we the research show that the competency of teacher would like to understand the nature, maybe the psychology needs of the adult learner, as well as I thought at that time that adult learner should be promoted or encouraged by their own self-directed learning because they have no time to study by themselves already. We have to do that job or something like that. Yes, so that why I studied like a SDL, I mean self-directed learning for adult learner at that research. But in the side of the, maybe another one of my research is the non-formal education teachers of the non-formal education office that be responsible to do non-formal education program for adult learner. It means that non-formal education office already responsible people who not attend the formal education as well as adult who has a job. I mean, who do not have a chance to attend the formal education in the system, as well as the immigrant. Yes, immigrant that already has some job in Thailand would like to get more qualification from Thailand or something like that. So the competency of the non-formal education teachers, yes, they have so many assignment to do for the learners. The first one to do like teachers or instructor of them, and they have to think or initiate the project. I mean, community project suit for their communities. And also they have to find the learner. I mean, to find the people who needs to attend, the formal, I mean, the non-formal education program as well. And it's going to be affect on the quality of their job and also in the competency of them as well. Yes, this one is an effect of the, because it's kind of the overload assignment of the non-formal education teachers, something like that. Yes.
So when you say that teachers have to find them, how is that structured? Does an individual teacher go out and start their own program, or do you just mean that local programs need to recruit the learners to participate?
Pardon again, please. Sorry.
Yes. So you said that teachers have to find the learners. Did I so you mean for each program has to bring learners through the door? Is that what you mean?
Because because I mean, the expected learner, they do not want to study, to continuing study because of many reasons. Yes, they don't want to study anymore. Yes, maybe I just talk in form, they are lazy or do not have any motivation to study anything or something like that. Yeah, so yeah, just that NFE, I mean, non-formal education teacher have to recruit or looking for them to be back in the school system to finishing that compulsory education because of the law as well. Yeah.
Right. Oh, and again, this is when non-formal, you're talking about younger adult learners, right?
Yes, but actually we include as the adult because I think youth, like a youth adult or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to follow up also about your question about the older adult learners. And I'll just say briefly that my sense of the workforce investment in the United States is that it also precludes learners at that end. It means that, or excludes, I guess, unless an older senior citizen wants to go back and get a new job or start a new career, which some do, but other aspects of their educational development aren't really promoted or regulated by the Department of Education in the United States. And I'm not sure, we have, several ministries or departments. There's a Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm sure that they do have some initiatives for senior citizens or elderly adults. But those don't really fall within education. And I think there's very much an emphasis on productivity, as opposed to quality of life or experience or even civic participation or citizenship, or health. There's many aspects of adult life that education is connected to, but most of our legislation is focused on economic productivity. When you say there are programs for older learners, is that within your Ministry of Education or is it apart from it?
Yeah, you already told our Ministry of Education here. Is that
Mhm.
right? Okay. But actually, our Ministry of Education, they're directly responsible for doing both. I mean, formal and formal education, and also informal education that include lifelong education as well. But actually, yes, I just maybe a little bit talk about in my opinion, about the status of the Ministry of Education. Yes, of course, we already evaluate and announced about the act, I mean the Learning Encouragement Act. And yes, of course, the lifelong learning or non-formal education is becoming mentioned and talk about it. But actually, I found that maybe we need to think, yes, the rise about the importance or the crucial thing about the lifelong education. But actually, maybe, I mean, the leader or administrator of the ministry, they do not quite realize or understand about the actual concept of non-formal education or lifelong education. So actually they mention on the formal education, and then they blend like a lifelong learning activity into formal education. Then why for Thai context, lifelong learning education is not like so be focusing quite a lot, and it's going to be result in the like a job position, educator position measuring in lifelong education is not existed for the government officer. It's not so many positions mentioned. Yes, just I would like to share about that one. So yes, and also would like to know, because I maybe I heard that you have quite the same situation about the recognizing about non-formal education or adult education in the field of the policy or not, or in the operation.
Yeah, it can be hard to see because I'm in the field, but it's true that I think there is more legislation now about adult education than there ever has been in the United States. But it's still very small in comparison to the K-12 education, the primary and secondary education. Excuse me. The system itself is very fractured. You know, starting in the 60s, there was official federal legislation about adult education, but it has been a small portion of our services. And in fact, there's been a pretty steep decline in the number of participants in the federally structured system, although there's been a lot of work by scholars and practitioners to develop an adult education system so that there is a department in every state in the country, in all 50 states, and in many territories. But even now that that infrastructure is there, the number of students participating is actually going down dramatically. And we don't really know why. I think in part there are a lot of there are many more informal learning opportunities for adults to engage in a self-guided way. But we know also that there's different degrees of success with self-guided learning, depending on your skill and access levels. Also, there is the federal policy. I don't know what is and we haven't talked about this, Sulmonit, but I don't know if there is financial support for people who don't have money in Thailand. We do have a system in the United States, but it's very limited. You can only get assistance for 5 years. And when those limits went into place, the number of participants in public adult education programs went way down because people don't even have the money to pay for transportation or for childcare or the things that they would need to be able to get to the program, even though the program is free. So we do have this, I wouldn't say well-established system, but we do have an established system, but now the number of participants is going down. The amount of funding is also going down.
Yes, because yes, it's also this is a result of your study as well. So what do you think is going to be have your research is proposed about how to or the solution or the enrollment or because I would like to know. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think unfortunately it's a broken record a little bit of like there needs to be greater investment of resources into adult education. Because even though, and this is a little bit counterintuitive, even though the overall number of participants in the nation is going down, many individual programs have long waiting lists of learners that they don't have the capacity to serve. So there are fewer programs. Fewer programs are receiving federal money. So there are fewer participants in the system, but there's still demand out there that is unmet. So we need to expand, I think, what counts as adult education under the federal guidelines to include health education and literacy education. And language education, certainly, so that more adults can come to the system and get support for their educational goals.
This is a conversation that's raising a lot of interest, a lot of questions, and we are at 30 minutes at this point in time. And so this is where we open it up to the audience members to ask questions, or, to kind of further engage, the speakers in terms of what interests both of you and what interests the audience too. So there is a question, but allow me to start too. Yesterday we were talking about critical questions, and one of the things that has emerged from the discussion is on the report. As I mentioned to you, I have 3 devices and they come in from all, but in the 5th UNESCO Global Report on Adult Education, one of the emphasis is citizenship education. And so one of the things that has come into from various fields is that this can be interpreted as an opportunity as well as a challenge, because from one end, it could be seen as enforcing adaptation, for instance, of immigrants into the mainstream. The other, perhaps, is opening up a window on engagement and participation in the context. And so what is your take on this idea of citizenry, global and whatnot, and which is distinguished from national citizenry, which is interesting too. What is your take on this report and the focus on citizenship?
Do you want to go first, Sulmonit, or do you want me to go?
Yes, just brief of this one. Yes, in the kind of in Thailand concept, but I would like to just give some example from my university. But actually, yes, in the level of my university, we realized that the global citizenship is become very important in the current global context as well. So, I mean, all of the students, not only students who are Bachelor of Education, they need to be cultivate both a national citizenship as well as global citizenship as well. They have to do something like a supplementary activity during the curriculum that study during that curriculum during study in SWU. So the student they need or they have to collect in order to do the kind of the citizenship or global citizenship activity that designed or provided by university unit. They are going to create some activity that encourage the citizenship, I mean both national and global citizenship, and then they will get like as a point, collect the point or something like that. And then, yeah, this is a part of that graduation, because so it is true that for our program, I mean our student SWU, they as a proof that there has a characteristic of the kind of the citizenship. Yes, but I'm not guarantee that they are going to have or not, but yes, we realize and we try to do it indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think
concrete way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's interesting that's embedded into the program. Amy, in terms of the nature, the inquiry as to this focus on citizenship that can be taken both ways, right? Can you comment on that?
Sure. I mean, my sense, I will say that most of my research is not in the English language learner stream of adult education in the United States. And I will say that that is the only sort of funding and regulatory stream that has any emphasis on citizenship. There is in the workforce development and the adult basic education strand, there's very little emphasis on any aspect of citizenship, national or global. My understanding from folks who do the English language learning, teaching and scholarship is that it's still very focused on a U.S. nationalist citizenship, because there is a citizenship test that you have to complete in order to legally stay in the country. And many of the programs, that is the goal that is topmost of mind. So there's not much attention in research or practice about global citizenship. In actual, I will say there is in research, but in practice, I've seen very little attention to the idea of global citizenship. In part, I will also say that even though it's known that the United States has very a high number of adults who have literacy and numeracy and technological challenges, the US doesn't really seem to consider itself bound by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It has its own sort of thinking of itself and its place in the world, and it doesn't really consider development in that same kind of a way, which is a shame.
It is, and we have more work to do, in other words. And so there's a question that has come in from Susanna, and the question is with Sulmonit, which is, would you say that the need for lifelong adult learning is or will be on the rise in Thailand, and if so, why?
Okay, you mean this is the rise? Is that right?
Rise.
Rise.
An increase. Yeah.
Increase. Okay. Because of now we are in the aging society. Yes. So yes, the demand, is that right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but could you repeat what you said just a few minutes ago? What society was it? Sorry.
It's an aging society.
Aging.
Oh, aging society.
Aging.
Okay.
Yeah, aging society. Okay, because now we are confronted with the higher population in the age of the older adult. So that we have the higher demand of the learning. So actually, in case of that, I have to split into in case of the adult learner, in case of the older adult, yes, they have some specific needs, learning needs, because they are Thai, and we have our own Thai context, and also maybe the government do not provide enough some welfare, is that right? Welfare, yes, for them. Yes, the first thing that they need to be developed, that they have to be like keep or maintain the good quality of their life. Yes, this one is a kind of that learning needs. And I just would like to share and linking for a little bit my current research, because I think about the learning needs of the kind of this group. So now I'm developing about the kind of the application, mobile application for encouraging the well-being. Yes, for elder adults in Bangkok, in the urban area, because actually, in Bangkok, atmosphere is quite rich, and they got something like a anxiety situation. They live alone during the daytime, something like that. Yes. So yes, me and my colleague, yes, going to develop some application, mobile application, yes, to give some knowledge or program to support the well-being. The content going to be designed by their needs. I mean, I would like to go to study their needs first and going to change to mean that suits for them. And then, yes, I believe that if they use the application, because most of the elderly in Bangkok, they have their own mobile phone. So I hope that's gonna be to maybe some case study to show that the aging people or elderly can do something and upgrade their well-being as well. Yes. Yes.
So
That's really interesting.
yeah, that's really interesting. And for the audience members, because I see a question here about your research, in our the Zoom page, the research is hyperlinked, and so the articles are hyperlinked. But and I can, if you go to our Zoom site, you will see that you can access the research. But I can also add it here on this Q&A to kind of let people know where to go to obtain your research. And so there's interest here as to where they can find your research. And so, Amy, in terms of, like we're moving along here with this webinar, time is flying. But in terms of, Sulmonit, your app will be invaluable to us as well here. And so hopefully, we can have access to the app. And you're trying to attend to a problem at hand or to an issue at hand to support and to guide people to better health. And so, Amy, in terms of your research, what are the questions that you are pursuing, and why?
Yeah, I am just wrapping up one study that has looked sort of across state contexts at the ways that policy creates challenges to serving adults who have difficulty reading. So again, kind of revisiting this idea of the learners that need it most, and looking from the perspective of state administrators who are trying to develop programs in their states, what challenges did they encounter as they tried to develop programming for that group of learners? I have another study, and I'll tell you shortly what they were. They found that, so the legislation in the United States that governs this federally funded system also requires alignment with other programs and services that are targeting the same population. So welfare is an example, Department of Labor is an example, Health and Human Services is an example if someone needs kind of vocational rehabilitation. So if you're trying to teach literacy and reading and writing for a group of adults, you also have to work to coordinate services with all these other groups. That's part of the goal of the legislation, is that people don't have to go a bunch of different places. They can go one place and sort of get everything they need. Or, yeah, that everyone's working towards the same goal. But because adults who need the services the most are the most difficult to serve, are considered the most difficult to serve because they need the most resources, other administrators from other parts of the legislative stream weren't interested in serving these learners because they didn't produce the outcomes that those people needed to show their return on investment, to show the accountability that was required to the government funders. So administrators, other like WIOA administrators didn't want to serve them. Local programs were also not interested in serving these learners, again, frequently because the resource demand is too high. There's other populations of learners that are faster and easier to serve, and so that's who they gravitate towards. And also the lack of funding. For adults who are returning to higher education, there are Pell Grants, there's different kinds there's loans that you can take out, but you can't really take out a loan to go back to an adult basic education program. So if you're starting from farther away from your high school degree, it takes you longer to get there. but you need some kind of financial support to do that, and that doesn't really exist. So that was really, again, my focus is on this population of learners who have difficulty reading and writing, or who haven't established their foundational reading and writing skills to the degree they want. So I'm also looking at them in terms of their digital engagement and their self-directed learning as well. What kinds of self-directed learning do adults who don't read and write well do on their phone? What kinds of self-directed learning do they do in their lives? And how can we draw on that to improve the services that they get?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, again, you guys both are on the cusp, we're riding the wave of needs at this point in time. You know, both of you as scholars are very aware of the issues that affect your learners and your adult peers. Sulmonit, do you want to take on in terms of, there are a lot of questions, or even Amy, and questions that you're curious about in terms of the Thai context that you want further clarification or investigation or inquiry into?
I have a question about the app, Simone. So, is your sense that what kinds of things, do you have any concerns about older learners being able to use an app on their phone, and how will you address that as part of your design of your app?
Okay, actually, it's not only me to do this research. My colleagues is in educational technology. So yes, we design together. For me, I'm going to design about the content that suits for their needs. But in case of easy to access or easy to use, yes, this is going to be her responsibility to decide how the adult how the elderly can access easily. But mostly because of the earlier research for that, the elderly who live in Bangkok, maybe over 80% they can use mobile phone fluently. Yes. Yes, we are quite confident that they can access and they can use the application easily. And also now, because now we are developing, so the first step that we have to study their current learning needs first, which content, or after I studied from the opinions about their learning needs, I have to be back and analyze about real learning needs of them. And yes, going to put some content that suits for them, very short, very brief. Yes, and easy for them. Yes. And after that,
I know that in studies that I've done in the past, for some learners, the most difficult part of engaging was the very beginning part, the password, the user ID, and the password. And that would take up entire class periods of getting onto the learning app. And I was talking to a teacher recently, and she shared with me some resources that are specifically designed to avoid passwords and user IDs, because that's such a barrier to adults with literacy difficulties. And my sense actually of my own elderly parents is that it's a barrier for them as well. And for myself, right now I have how many passwords? Many. But so if you have any kind of cognitive concerns or memory concerns or literacy concerns, those the very beginning part is an issue. What do you think about that for older learners in your app?
Yeah, yes, I agree with you. So I give some specific information like how to design. As you mentioned, is the beginning of the application or something like that. And of course, it needs to be about the to be responsible for the physical. I can say, sorry, physical needs as well, like their eyesight, so that, and also, sorry for my voice, and also the ear, something like that as well. So I mentioned and all the size of the letter or something like that, and also the language style as well. Yes, this one is like I have to concern for the designer. I mean the application designer as well, to give it not only for the content that fulfill their learning needs. Yes, and thank you very much for your recommendation about the beginning of the application. Yes, I'm going to yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that's exciting. It's an exciting possibility. I look forward to. I hope you'll share with us when the app is done. I'm sure it will be in Thai, so we won't be able to navigate it, but it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, we need the application here. So this question is coming from, I think, somebody who attended one of our sessions earlier, Amy, on campus, which is the the involvement of community in engaging adult learners, because as mentioned previously, two places where it's mentioned. One is that high impact practices for any learners is community. And the other is that in terms of, again, going back to the UNESCO report, the higher education's quote unquote third mission is community involvement. And so what in your views is this learning adult learners and the role of community in engaging them, and your role as educators in terms of engaging community or embedding community in the learning and the support of adult learners?
I love this question. This is pretty niche. My answer is going to be pretty niche, but so there is a debate in the way that adult literacy education developed in the United States was an each one teach one model. The idea that if you knew how to read, you could teach someone else to read, which is not true, by the way. Especially if you have any difficulty with learning, it's not true that you can just. I mean, reading specialists don't even understand how reading works. It's a complicated and multifaceted process. But so what developed was a volunteer model of one-on-one tutoring. And as Frida, you said, the scholarship and research now really emphasize the benefits of learning in community with other people and not just being isolated as a tutor. There's social community benefits, but there's also learning benefits to learning in a group with other people. So within adult education in the United States, that debate is still happening because for many years, there was so much reliance on volunteer tutors to provide one-on-one instruction. Those tutors are not particularly well trained. Some of them don't get any training at all, but they provide millions of hours of free labor to this system of education. And so people are reluctant to get rid of them or to switch to a model that's more professionalized with better training and that offers this group learning. Our federal legislation requires that you do group learning. That's what the money is for, but not all practitioners are on board with that process.
Thank you. Before we pursue that question further, there's a question from Jasmine for Sulmonit in particular. Are there differences in adult education in rural Thailand and urban Thailand? And so can we address that? Is there more or less? So there are two parts of the question. Let's address that. Is there a difference? Sulmonit?
Yeah. Let me see the question a bit. Yeah,
Is there a difference? So there's two parts of the question, but let's try and address the first one, which is there
I
a
see.
difference between rural
Yes, it's
and
quite
urban?
different. Yes, quite definitely, because as I give for example, from my research, it is a kind of the adult or the adult in the urban area. But in case of the adult in the rural area is quite different, because most of them are in the agriculture area. So yes, because of the lower educated. Yes. So when we decide about adult education program for adult learner in rural area, it's need to be think about how to develop them into get or into resolve them in the financial purpose, or doing something that can be re, self can be have a self resilience, something like that, because actually uh,
You might have to repeat.
adult
Yeah.
learner in a rural area, they need something like a technology, okay, technology, and also as well as some result from the the main the government. So actually they are under the conduct from the local government, not local government, local authority, which depend on the budget. But actually in the rural area, the adult in the rural area that needs to be developed in case of the like the job. The job area that support their financial status, like they have to develop their natural resource, something like if they used to be the farmer or something like that, they have to develop their product, like and maybe preserve food or something like that, and going to be the product, product, food product or something like that, like a local food product, and sell. Because actually, we are a kind of the tourism, hospitality or something like that. So we mention or target that, because most of local or in the rural area is becoming the full of in the tourism. Yeah, so we mention in the produce some local product and to sell for the tourists or something like that. This one is a kind of in the rural area. But in case of the adult education program for the urban, yes, maybe related about the health, both mental health and physical health as well, because of the environment of the urban area. It's something like that. And of course, most of the adult education program, if they are supported by the non-formal education office, is free. Is free. Yes, they don't have to pay anything. Include in the case of Bangkok, the Bangkok metropolitan. Yes, they always have their own school. Career school, yes, career school for in the area of Bangkok as well. Yes.
So interesting. So what you mean is adult education is very localized, depending on the needs of each local areas, the urban and the rural, and whatever software. We have about 1 minute. Is there anything that you guys want, you, Sulmonit or Amy, want to kind of leave in terms of a thought that we've not considered in this conversation? Amy, you want to start as to what one last thought you want us to leave with?
Well, I really want to quickly say thank you, Farida, and thank you, Sulmonit, Farida, for putting these series together, and Sulmonit for being willing to join us. No, I guess just the continued pushing of adult education systems to serve those adults who want education but are experiencing lots of obstacles and barriers to getting in.
Sulmonit, do you want us to leave
me?
one thought for us as we wrap up?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to give me to share my study and my idea, and also have a chance to see both of you each other. And also, yes, of course, I feel that lifelong education in the context of Thailand is
Right.
why becoming have to be more study and think about it a lot. Yes.
Well, you're helping us think a lot about that today. So I thank both of you for being here and for spending time with us. I thank the audience here in the internet and everywhere else in the world. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for your knowledge. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Farida.
Thank you.